you. Happy to be here and share this insights that we have and trying to cover some of the more unusual places that we have around. So we call these ones not spots as they don't have coverage today. If we look at these ones, they are typically things that you wouldn't find financial incentives to deploy today. We're looking at rural areas, agriculture, and some industries that are in sort of remote spots. Maybe the last one can actually be resolved by money being thrown down, but the two first ones are very much about governments trying to include everyone in today's society. So it's a societal effort to make sure that nobody's left behind in creating issues going forward. Now, this is of course not something that nobody wants to cover. I think we all want to cover these users that are out there. However, it is the financial viability around this that is challenged. Now, if we look at sort of the root causes around this, it's basically it's too few people and it costs too much money to run this network, to build the network. So it comes back to sort of very long return cycles if you invest in it, very difficult to install, at least the sort of traditional way to build these sites. And in many cases, there are also areas where it's just difficult to build because it's hilly mountains, places where it's difficult to get the radius into the homes of people or out to the areas that you need to cover for industrial applications or for agriculture type of deployments. Now, so what are these solutions around this? Well, I think there's one response from government around this, and this is sort of regulation. I think we all know that most of the operators have some type of coverage obligations. You need to cover a certain amount of population or a certain amount of land area in your licenses there. However, that is sort of a little bit the stick method in this. So even if we sort of push the operators of doing this, there's of course the residual effect is we have a number of sites that are not profitable, they're not generating money. Now some governments, they have different schemes around this, so there's a little bit of carrot as well, and we've seen that especially in Europe where they sort of want to have that rural coverage done, so they say, all right, so let me incentivize you. If we sort of partly finance this, how cheaply can you build it? They are mandating them to use network sharing technologies like Martin to sort of further reduce the bill of this. So that is through sort of the spectrum discount rate. We see around the world, other places like in Latin America, we see some experiments there, like Altan in Mexico or Winity in Brazil, where it's sort of a different model how this is built up, where they are looking at using sort of a duty contest of getting access to spectrum and provide coverage to these places. But when it comes down to all these things in the end, we need to find solutions that are less expensive. Less CapEx and less OpEx needs to be deployed in this. Now, what I will be sharing here now is mostly around projects that we've done with China Mobile and how we help them solve this problem or make at least one step further of solving this. So if you look at this formula then, so this is the formula, how should I put it? This is the formula that floated the boat for China Mobile. Like that. Different places around the world have different formulas. So we do things in Latin America, we do things in Africa, and they look different. But let me explain here where they come from and what we've done for them in this context. So if we look at this, it's about doing two things: reducing the cost, and that's very much about sort of easy deployment. It's about low power consumption. It's being able to use the resources that you have at hand, whether it's mounting assets or it is the fiber that you have to a specific place, or a power delivery that you have to a specific place. But it's also in China Mobile's case, they are keen on the performances of this as well. So even if you reduce the equipment cost, even if you find a very good concept, you still put in money into the civil works, the planning permissions, and all of these things that are required around it. So therefore, it's also this push for making these sites slightly better than they are today. which have resulted in requirements of how much output power we need to have on these sites, which is higher than the deploying today, but also some part of the technical solution to solve the uplink challenges that are out there. All right, so going to a sort of specification for this, if you sort of condense this formula down, this is what you basically get out: an AC power base station that is all counted in a single box, right? So you don't have to have any enclosures, you don't have to have any rectifiers, no cabinets, no concrete slab, all of these things that actually drives the cost for you in the network. I have one case sharing here, and this is a real case that we built with China Mobile based on this. And I'll try to go through this with you, try to explain what was the outcome of it and how much they sort of made out of it. So this is a rural village in China. You can see it here. This is, take this one. Hello? Hello? Yeah, good. Yeah, the site location is here in the middle. It's not a big place, right? This is 20, 30 households that are there. If we look around here, there's no fancy infrastructure at hand. You see these concrete poles. The roads are what looks like dirt roads to me. There is no possibility to use GPON in this one. So this is the good part of it. There is existing coverage, a little bit of 4G leaks through here. So it's not the worst situation of, yet we want to get 5G there and to develop this village, and at the same time sort of improve the 4G coverage at this place. All right, so what did we do here then? So we put a base station at this site location. It has two antennas, one that sort of pushes this thing south down that road that goes through this village, and one that pushes it north. So this is one Geno D with two 44R antennas that are mounted on this, as you see, concrete pole that sits here. Now, there is no cabinet involved, there is no duct involved or anything that sort of costs money. All that's in there is this single Geno B that mounts on the pole and takes directly power out to the AC feed that comes from the network. Now, the power supply here is, what you can see here is basically the breakers, and you can see the ONU sitting in this enclosure on the pole. But that's about it. So with this, we have significantly reduced build cost. Not only is the base station cheaper, which is supposed to be when it's optimized for this, but also the rest of the build. So if you look at sort of a traditional build, a lot of it goes into the civil works, the infrastructure around it. A part of it goes into building the active piece of it. Now, what we've done with this one, we have improved all of these aspects around it. Now, we promised a few things in the beginning there, which was also around capacity around this. So, what we did was, what we were requested to do with China Mobile was up the power. So, make it count, basically. So even if we put this one down and we reduce the cost to sort of minimum to build it, still they want to make sure that what they put down there, they can use as good as possible on this one without going overboard or putting very exotic technology on this side. So with this, we have a 120 watt output power, so 60 watt per output path. So we've done 2 drive tests around this one, just to make sure that we actually are getting better KPIs out of it. So the 40 watt is up here, the 60 watt is down here, and as we can see here, of course, the red areas are reduced in this one. But also, it comes back into statistics around this. So if you look at these sort of good KPIs where you are in reasonable coverage area, we can clearly see that there's more good samples with 60 watt. It's hardly surprising, of course, if you put down more power, you are going to get a better situation around that. But also on the core KPI side. So we basically eliminated most of the core KPIs in this on this drive path that we have with the solution of getting more power. Now, this is China Mobile. This is where they have a good power source, yet you need to be conservative with energy. So we built a very energy conservative solution around this one, but it's not using the absolutely minimum power. If you go to Africa, for instance, I know that we're looking at energy envelopes that you have during the day, because everything that's powered is solar and batteries. Here we have the luxurious situation of using a grid power. All right, the other technology sort of step forward that we took on these sites, we're stepping from sort of basic 2T2R type of sites that were used in the past to keep the cost low, to up to 2T4R, because we felt that that was still within inside sort of the build to cost envelope that we have at this point. Of course, you get quite a good throughput in these situations if you look at the 20 megahertz NR carrier or 40 megahertz NR carrier. But maybe interesting is more looking at the edge speed around this, looking at the uplink average and uplink peak at the edge on the network. This is where you see the big difference using the 4 receivers. So of course you collect more energy and you get more through it. So I think this is worth it. I think this is one of the things that absolutely should be in a solution like this. All right, so this is the last slide here. We are looking at the sort of collective achievements that we've done through this project. So if I look at the build cost of this, so this is not only the base station, it is the cost to get the whole site up. To build the site, to get in the transmission there, get the power there, get the base station deployed. We cut it almost in half. And this is just by optimizing all of these things I talked about before. Make sure that we don't have these additional costs deploying this. And we've also done a significant reduction on the OpEx. If you look at the power consumption with the previous solution that they used, well, we cut that by 20%. And that is maybe the more ongoing long-term sort of benefits that you have with this. So you have your users out there, this can stay in this site, and this site does not have to actually cost that much money to run. With that, I thank you, and I'll leave the door open for questions. We have about 3 minutes, I believe, unless you want to shorten that one as well.
Thank you so much for keeping time. Questions? Comments? Anything? No?
Okay.
It's very clear.
Very clear. Very happy.
Thank you so much. All right.